DW, what are you up to?
Well, let's see. I'm still waiting for the cover page for the upcoming, was it a side arc that I have? Sixie, another artist who's doing the follow-up story to that one. Not anything I can help. I'm not holding that against her that she has family issues. I'm just saying it just reoppresses. If people don't understand, especially the artists and stuff like that, from some of the artists I've used for not just Jack, but for other projects, that people don't want one page every 2 months. You know what I'm saying? When they're reading a story and stuff like that, like Jack, we're updating 3 times a week, and really the readers would want it to be every day if they had their choice and stuff like that. But I cannot impress. I'd have to tell that to the readers that that's just not possible. I can't get artists to have that quick of a turnaround with that many pages per week. It's just not going to happen.
They'll just have to accept that there'll be some pauses.
Yeah. I mean, for right now, I have stories set since the update started this year. I pretty much had continuous updates set to run through November, and then possibly even beyond that if the other stories get done in time. But that's just going to have to be understood to the readers. That's not sustainable. I'm not going to be able to have 8 straight months of updates. We're looking at probably a story with maybe 1 to 2 month hiatuses in between. That's probably what the reality is going to be.
Yeah, the way I'm the way the one I'm working on is looking, we could go 5 pages a day, and it'd still take a year to get it all done or get it all posted.
Yeah.
So they'll be happy with that, I'm sure. But
they better be. They have to be.
No, well, I'm not going to say they have to. That's
kind
of a dick thing to say. But
they really have no choice.
Yeah, that's true. But don't like to say that to them. That's
harsh reality.
Right.
It's true, but we want them to keep reading. That's
that's true. Obviously, here's the thing. When it comes to the artist, that's a me problem. That's not an artist problem, if that makes any sense. Stuff like that. I'm not paying these, you know what I'm saying? It's like, this isn't Marvel Comics. You know what I'm saying? This isn't DC Comics and stuff like that. These artists aren't working for me professionally full-time, 24 hours a week and stuff like that. I'm not their full-time employer. So
indie wages, so indie results.
Exactly.
Speaking of which,
my desires are not necessarily the reality of what their work schedule is, if that makes any sense.
Hey, where's my fucking money?
What's that?
Where's my fucking money?
It's tough. Ultimately, what I'm trying to say is it's basically you have to be the editor here, and it's tough being the editor. It's tough dealing with the creative and the schedule sides, if that makes any sense. It's a tough work balance. But that's ultimately, at the end of the day, that's a me thing, because this, as fun as it is to work on Jack, it's not anybody's full-time job. So it's not. We do I hope the readers understand, we do the best we can, and we try to give them at least, if not 100% continuous updates, then at least consistent updates.
Yes.
Keep them informed on what's going on. That's what the blog is for, right?
Yes, that is indeed what the blog is for, to give them a general update of what the immediate realities and the future plans are, if that makes any sense.
Speaking of which, how can potential contributors help out?
We have, if you do read the blog, the link at the top of the comic webpage, if you do read the blog, there is a link to the email that is set up for anybody who wishes to contribute, either fan art or if they have ideas for stories that they can, that they wish to contribute to the archives. If they have short stories, if it could be anything as like a 1-page story or a longer story, It's we have the jackwebcomic@gmail.com email address for them to submit any material they want. We just ask that if they wish to write a story, fan art, fan art is always welcome because that can be canon or non-canon. It could be anything we want. But if it is going to be a story that appears in the article as like a canon story, we ask that they submit like a at least a treatment before they submit the script, so that we can approve the story, make sure it matches up with what the either existing story or the planned upcoming stories, make sure nothing's inconsistent or anything like that.
Oh, give them an example of one that worked, like the backstory of we ran a single page comic not too long ago about a soldier, and how did that come about getting on the getting posted? Do you remember the one I'm talking about?
Yeah, I do remember the one where Jack visited the soldier who had just died.
Whistling Wind, maybe?
Whistling Wind, yes, that's right. This was a submission specifically, a one-page submission that was given to us. The artist had written it and had submitted it to us through the email address that we had, and we liked it. It was exactly the kind of emotional short story that we liked. It doesn't necessarily have to be a long one. It can just be a one-page story is perfectly fine as well. And like usually we have once they email us, we can have a nice little back and forth through email. And if they are willing to speak to us, either on Discord or Telegram, I can contact, once we have a established working relationship on email, we can move that way. And it's just opportunity. If they contact us and they have an idea and we like it, we will allow it to go through.
And I prefer, and I think DW is the same way, but I prefer when the new artists or storytellers present an idea. It's something that's self-contained into the story. I'm all right with people playing with the lore and the characters, the established characters, but I have the opinion that you kind of have to prove that you can handle them first. But
I agree. There have been so many, great. For giving another comic book example, there have been so many great Spider-Man stories over the years, like a ton of really great stories. But one of the most famous one is a short story that's only like 5 pages long. It is called "The Boy Who Collects Spider-Man." It's not a superhero story, and it's not like there's no supervillain, there's no fights in it. It's just a short little emotional story about the hero meeting. Spoiler alert for a story that's almost 40 years old now. A little boy that's dying of cancer, and it's just a very sad and it's an emotional story, but it's very memorable. And that's we like. For the Jack stories, we like the ones that sometimes are a bit of a gut punch. They can be, they can get you right in the feels, as they say.
Right.
We like the ones that not necessarily a long running story, but just something short and sweet.
And we can see new artists doing the giant epic lore altering stories at some point, but just give us a feel of how your writing comes off first.
Prove that you can tell a lot of story in a very short amount of time, and then we'll be more comfortable trusting you to tell a longer story, basically.
Gotcha. Now, getting back to how these works take so long to do, I will tell you that having worked on these myself, having taken up the pen again recently, it has given me a appreciation for what you artists do as an art form, how much time it takes and how much work it takes. Good Lord.
Yes, you spend hours working on a single panel that everybody else is going to look at for 1/10 of a second.
Exactly. This truly can be your own personal hell at times.
But it's a cage of my own making, so I only have myself to blame. Like the page I'm working on right now is for the I'm coloring for the upcoming self-published book, the All Hail the Underlord.
Yes.
And I decided to place it in the setting is a rock concert, so there's crowds galore and lots of stage lighting effects and everything. And it's like I say, you like too much, but it is much work. I try not to do just the little bubbles to create crowds, and I eventually have to do that. But so I try to make each character look unique and have a personality, but or at least a personality in their actions. And it's very labor intensive for something that I don't think anybody's going to appreciate all that much. Or not as much as the effort I put into it, I guess. But I think that's part of the sign that the story is working. If the reader just quickly goes from one panel to the other and is not confused by what's going on, then you're telling the story right. In sequential art, it's not so much making every single panel perfect. The panel works if it helps continue the story and it pushes the reader along. It pushes the reader along the page without any confusion or
narrative.
Yeah,
it communicates the idea.
Mm-hmm.
So like a film from one idea to the next.
Yeah.
I sometimes feel a little guilty, compared to the work you guys do. I mean, you guys do like the real heavy lifting with drawing the comics and stuff like that. I feel I get off a little easy with writing the story sometimes when it comes to a comic, the work that the artist does, that really sells it,
Right. For clarification, DW, you're talking about the difference between writer and artist, right?
That's correct. Yes. The contribution that the writer makes to the comic compared to the contribution that the artist makes to the comic.
Well, I wouldn't sell yourself too short, because you can make a bad comic out of a good script, but you can't make a good comic out of a bad script.
That's true.
Unless you make it entertainingly bad.
Well, then it'd be a good script, right?
Maybe.
Now, then the question becomes: did Tommy Wiseau succeed when he made the movie The Room?
By accident.
Still haven't watched it. So DW, which post is the most annoying? The guy who posts first, and he's almost invariably like the second or third person to post, or the guy who says, "I called it," because he predicted something that would happen the page before.
Oh God, I'm going to say that he called it one, and I'll tell you the reason why. Law of averages says if you're updating a comic like 3 days a week, and you have a story that runs for like a couple months, that person has months ahead of time. It isn't like a movie where he has 2 hours to spoil the movie. You know what I'm saying? Like, okay, I called it. This is a situation where they have like months.
There's a break where you can think about it and
exactly
pull in the visual clues and everything. And I don't like the call it guys. I mean, they're annoying. That's it. There's nothing really too wrong with them. But
of course, yeah.
Because if you're telling the story correctly, then it should project a little bit. If it just comes out of the blue and it's completely surprising, the called it guys aren't going to say I called it. They're going to say, well, that came from fucking nowhere.
Gotta be one or the other.
Right. It's like, well, you could either pull a like when Red Letter Media jokes about like saying, we subverted expectations and stuff like that by, having, instead of pouring the bottle on the glass, putting the bottle over the edge of the table and pouring it over there. Ha ha ha! You didn't see that coming, did you? There is a certain point where stories are cliche. That's just the reality of storytelling. I mean, there's only like was it like they said, like 20 different ways to tell a story. So it's like eventually, yeah, you're gonna do something that the readers see coming.
Well, that's another thing, is the cliches. They become cliches because they work. I mean, storytelling is a medium of communication. If you're not communicating, if you're not telling a story somebody can understand, then you're not communicating correctly. And some of that communication is, unfortunately, those tropes, because they work, and it's a language other people understand. So
it'd be like every single movie or story or whatever had to be like a David Lynch story where it just randomly goes off in another direction every 5 minutes, and you can't catch your breath because you have no idea what's going to happen the next minute.
yeah, but that's a David Lynch trope now.
Exactly.
So, Jack has been running since 2001, am I right?
No idea. That sounds about right, though.
I believe, yes, it started loading in the spring of 2021, first on websites, I think like Eurf, and then it got moved over to Keen Space.
Yeah,
What?
when you work Graveyard Keen Space, it was an old a web comic hosting site.
That's true.
But yeah, I'm no good with dates because when you're working a graveyard shift, all that sort of disappears and fades away, and I just lose track of days and times and holidays and everything. It's all lost. I have no idea what day it is today. It looks like it is the 7th of September.
I knew this one. Sorry to interrupt. I knew this one because I was working with somebody on Discord who was actually considering doing a video essay about Jack. So I was doing research on it to like find like the history of the early days of Jack, and that's how I was able to figure out some of like the first postings of it.
Nerd.
Oh,
It's research journalist.
Nah, come on.
I gotta get my journalism degree some usage now that I'm not using anymore.
But anyway, so Dave, when you first started working on Jack, do you have any idea that it would be running for so freaking long?
No, and I'm kind of happy to see that it's coming to an end, or that's finally coming to an end. I've got other projects I want to work on, and other stories to tell, but I fear I'm going to end up like Charles Schultz, yeah, the guy who did Peanuts. He announces, "I'm ending Peanuts. I'm not going to work on it anymore." And a week later, he ends up dead.
That's true.
Because I believe Chuck Brown came out of the comic page and said, "Yeah, I'm not dying alone, old man."
Snoopy said, "I'm taking you with me."
Right. Got in his little doghouse and gunned him down. But it could be like that. But I think I've got more stuff to offer the long-eared, long-tailed community. So we'll see. But no, I had no idea it was going to go on this long.
Oh, what kept you going for so long?
Well, when I began, I had a couple ideas. It was going to be the disaster of the week type of story. Today,
yes.
we're going to be doing a story about an airplane crash, and tomorrow we're going to be doing a story about a school shooting, and then the next. And then when I ran out of those, I started realizing I kind of had a longer story with the characters that I wanted to do. So I started doing stories that built towards this ending that I had in mind, and yeah, so it just took a while. And then I would often get distracted with other stories that have nothing to do with the main story, and yeah, so.
Now, about how long have you had this big end story? It's end game.
Oh, let's see. So when did this comic start? It started 2001, right?
Yes.
So I'd say about 2002, 2003.
Good lord.
Yeah, just been sitting on it for quite a while, which is a good thing because you sit on it, you start thinking about ideas and saying that one doesn't work anymore, or this one works better, or we add this. The basic story is the same, but a lot of the finer details have changed. A lot of the characters that come into to play in the middle of the story before when I first conceptualized the ending, and now there are these new characters that have become important to the story that need to have their part in the ending, and that's helped make the end better. So yeah, it just grows and gets better as time goes on. I hope it seems better for people. I hope they like this one. I think they will.
All right. And before we move on to that, I guess we should talk about a few one-shots we did not discuss in the first interview, like, of course, your first comic, Lion King versus the Predator.
Thank you for that fan art, by the way.
You're welcome.
And
beautiful, is it not?
No, I've shared it with no one. That's. But well, hell, what do you want to know about that one? That's.
Give us the rundown.
Oh, it's an old comic. I had bought my first couple of Dark Horse Predator comics, and I realized that I can use comics as a storytelling medium because I didn't have the funds to make my own movies. I could buy pencils and paper just fine. And it was just, I wanted to put something to paper, and I had no ideas. And so I just went with whatever silly concepts I came up with. And that was it. Let's move on to the next question.
Okay. The Perils of Paula. Tell us about that.
That was when I was doing more live streams with people. I wanted to get more interaction with the people who would come to those streams. Maybe do this as a way of encouraging other people to hang out. But so the idea was, here's a blank piece of paper. Okay, guys, what's this first panel all about? And then just create a story with the audience as we went. And it veritably became a silly story about a poodle in a chicken suit. I think I gave them a couple characters to choose from my repertoire of unused characters. And they chose that one. And it just went on from there. I can't say that they had complete control because I was influencing them. Okay, guys, you want to do this? You want to do that? They would often have trouble coming up with, okay, this panel's done. What's the next panel? And they just sort of meander. And I said, okay, well, maybe we could do this. We could do that. And then someone would chime in, oh, we could do that, but let's do this. And I'd say, yeah, I like that, but let's go back to do this. And so I had it wasn't completely a free market thing, but I had some influence on it. But it was fun. The people enjoyed it. They liked seeing their ideas just sort of show up on page and then eventually get posted on their thing. So it was a fun time. Maybe go back to them sometime, but I'm not really feeling the silly stories like Paula was at the moment.
I gotcha. Next. If a rat falls in the woods. Now, that wasn't just a single thing, but part of a series?
Yes, I think the series, Darkwing helped me. It was the series called If You Like These Comics, You Might Not Be a Good Person.
Oh, darn. This one I might not be familiar with.
Oh, okay. No, it started off, I wanted to do some silly black and white comics and just with macabre senses of humor. And I think you know this one, DW. It was on FA for a while. It was the one where a drip points and laughs at somebody for many times.
I think I do. I think I am familiar with that one. Oh, darn.
Hold on. They made an animated GIF of it. Or I made an animated GIF of it. Where is it? Put it in the chat there. But no, just silly things with macabre sense of humor. And gotcha. Many people admitted to me later, I may not be a good person. Some of them got a sort of miniature publication in a sort of fanzine that Roz Gibson and I put together of a similar sort of silly macabre art. And I think it included that one. It included the one with Voodoo's character Violet. The first half of the Fidget's Fidget's 9 Lives.
Do you remember the name of this scene?
What scene?
The fanzine you mentioned.
Oh yeah, it was called If You Like These Comics, You May Not Be a Good Person.
Ooh, okay. Now, speaking of zines, not really a fanzine, I guess, but didn't you mention that you got published in Furlough?
I did get published in Furlough. We ran that comic not too long ago on Jack. It was the coin toss story.
Yeah. What was the process like of getting published in that? Was there an application process, or did they just approach you, or what? How did that go on?
No, there was an application process. Furlough at the time was just accepting artwork from people in the community. I believe it was run by, was it Ellen Winkler? I don't know that you would know DW. I'm sorry. I'm leaning on you for shit.
I know about the Jack stuff. I don't really know any of the outside stuff.
But anyway, yeah, you just mail it and send it in. I don't think I got a check for the art. I may have gotten 100 for it, but the payment was mostly copies of the comic when it came out.
It was
paid an exposure.
Antarctic Press. Sorry.
Yeah.
Oh, no, it was Antarctic Press at the time, but I think Winkler was still in charge of producing. Winkler? I need to find a copy of it. I'm sure I've got one around here somewhere.
It does say Ellen Winkler, yeah.
Okay. I'm not a complete idiot.
That must have been something, because you mentioned, Dave, that Furlough was something that first got you into the fandom.
Yeah, it kind of was a big deal for me at the time. But especially since I did an embarrassing thing when I was younger. The first thing I submitted to Furlough got rejected, and rightfully so, because it was a piece of crap. and
what's
that?
Wasn't Lion King versus the Predator?
It was not, but it was a little bit after that one. And I did this really embarrassing thing where they said they sent me a letter. Look, we can't take your submission at this time. It's not up to standard. And then I wrote back, you don't like it because it's different. It's emo bullshit that I did. And it was really embarrassing and uncalled for and stupid. But that was before Jack as well. So just me as a baby artist at the time. But I eventually got into Furlough. So
keep trying. Yep. Are they even still around? I'm not sure.
I believe Furlough just recently restarted. So
wow,
I think they are kind of still around. I am a little sad because Furlough, when it began, like the first 10 episodes were strictly stories about military. Yeah. But they eventually became more and more fantasy oriented, and plagued by large stories that never really got concluded.
That's sad. But I guess the internet sort of made them unnecessary, or outsourced them. Anyways.
Maybe. I don't know. Go ahead with your anyways.
Another fairly minor comic. Sort of your Jack Babies comic, Tormenting the Babysitter.
Oh, that wasn't a comic. It was just sort of a theme I came up with. And I at the time I was looking for ways to include the fans in the art, and that was just another one. I'd ask people to submit characters, and then I would take their characters and I'd draw them trying to babysit some of the hoodlums from Jack as children, and it'd usually end up with them being tied up and put in front of a train tracks, and then it was a toy train. But of course, or just any number of other silly sort of scenarios. So it was just a little bit of fun. Nothing too serious. Just a little side stuff. I don't know.
And it involved Mr. Salem, I see.
Yeah, we got Roz to agree to have a little baby Mr. Salem also show up. Roz really likes villains, so if I think give her an opportunity for her characters to interact with other villains, and she's all in. But
and speaking of which, given the opportunity, would there ever be a crossover between Mr. Salem and Jack?
I absolutely think it could be done. I don't think Jack and Jack will ever meet each other because that would just get too goddamn confusing. But I've talked to Roz about how I'd see Mr. Salem presented in the Jack world as a sort of a senator or some sort of politician, that sort of thing.
Hasn't he already been a dictator?
I don't think so. I think the biggest he got in Roz Gibson's world is a casino owner. But
maybe I'm misremembering because I've seen on a few issues of Furlough and like. Oh,
those, yes. No, those weren't representing any stories. They were just trying to glom onto an aesthetic.
Oh, I see.
Not an ideology. Let me make clear. Just an aesthetic.
I gotcha. Bad boy. Anyways.
Villains. See?
Now, for the both of you, have your works ever been published in physical form?
DW, we just talked about the one that I got published in physical form. You go right ahead.
Nothing other than when I was in college, a couple short stories I wrote were published in a little fanzine that we had at the college and stuff like that. But nothing beyond that. I've been published in a few. I've had my stories published in a few fanzines, like online zines, either for furry not comics, sorry, for furry stories or transformation related stories, but nothing that would be professionally produced in bookstores kind of thing. Nothing fictional related. Other than that, I did used to work as a journalist for a financial magazine, but that was obviously not those stories, those got published, but that was work and not anything like this.
That's a big surprise.
Now, apart from Furlough, I did have a story in Fred Patton, one of Fred Patton's anthology books.
Furry Future?
The Furry Future, yeah. And did self-publish Friday the 13th, so that was good.
Oh, that's in physical?
And Aeronor. I drew ants for an issue of the comic Aeronor, ERNOR, I believe. It's about wolves and kobolds, I think they are, like the small lizards, right?
Right.
That stand up.
The things that worship dragons. Yes.
Yeah.
And that upcoming concert comic, is that going to be physical?
Yes, I am going to self-publish that one as well. The Friday the 13th comic was more of a experiment to see how easy, difficult, or affordable self-publishing was, and it turns out I can pull it off. So I'm going to release a story that I can actually sell.
Awesome. Does this mean a return to the con circuit?
Not necessarily, no.
Shit. All right. Next question.
I'm sure DW will be there, though. You can all say hi to him. DW, are you a con goer?
No, actually, I'm not. I don't.
Are you kidding me?
I have never been to any kind of convention.
You don't have your 8-armed fursuit just lying in the closet waiting for the next con?
Oh, wow. No. No, I've never attended a convention, stuff like that. Always fascinated by the concept, but I'm not I'm not a fursuit or anything like that.
Oh, okay. Well.
All right, so more Jack questions. Why is it that Lisa was, for a time, joined at the crotch with Bob?
Well, Bob was joined at the crotch with her, too. It's because when they died, they died eating each other. And the devil, with a sense of humor, he decides, well, I'm going to make you guys gluttony, and you're both going to be sharing the same body. Have fun. And in order for you two to switch off between each other, you have to eat each other. So
I kind of always... I'm sorry, good.
It kind of seemed like a wonderfully grotesque idea to me. So, yeah.
It always struck me as kind of like a play on like Dante's Inferno. There's a section in Hell in Dante's Inferno where thieves are constantly transforming each other into like lizard monsters and stuff like that. They're constantly stealing each other's humanity. I kind of saw it as kind of like a play on that, like each one of them has to consume the other one to control the body, basically. So they're constantly stealing control of the body from each other.
You know what? That's a much better answer than the one I had. So I'm going to use that from now on. To be honest, it was a play on a scenario inside Dante's Inferno. If you remember, thieves were constantly turning themselves into lizards, stealing each other's humanity. And I felt that would juxtapose nicely with Jack. How did I do?
I don't even know what to say about that. But good answer. I was actually going to ask about the influence of the Divine Comedy on Jack. So that segs nicely.
Definitely. Oh, okay. There's definitely a lot of influence from Dante's Divine Comedy on Jack. Mostly the Inferno parts, not so much the Purgatory or the Paradise bits, but definitely the Inferno, and definitely the way Heaven, Purgatory, and Hell are structured against each other. That was influential. The presence of like real life things, like Dante would often include in the scenes of hell politicians he didn't like or tax collectors that he knew, and I did a little bit of that with Jack as well. This might lead into those dolphins you asked me if you wanted to talk about, because the dolphins existed or came to be solely so that they could torment a character that stands in as my wife's stalker. So,
you mean Dolph Lundgren?
Dolphin Lundgren, yes, that's his. So yeah, I like Dante. I put people from my life in there in both negative and positive ways.
Of course. And speaking of sea creatures, I was always wondering what the deal was with the starfish. Like, why are they so?
Just thought those were
Why are they so full of shit?
Well, who knows? Hell is a weird magical place, and I guess someone somewhere in time, their greatest anxiety was starfish and the poop they produce from their fingers or the tops of their heads. And they after he left hell, the starfish were left, and they were fruitful and they multiplied, and now we're stuck with them.
Yeah, sure
I
seems
don't think
like
I
that.
remember the origins of the starfish story. If you give me a second, my wife is home. I'm going to ask her real quick if she remembers, and I'll be right back.
All right, sure thing.
Talk to DW for a second.
Okay.
I'm here.
DW, how did you first go about taking over the burden of managing Jack, as it were?
Okay, well, I had originally contacted Dave probably around 2010, around 2011, and I had asked him, like, I had been working with my artist on my own webcomic called At Arm's Length. It's a furry webcomic, and I had asked him if he had any story ideas, that he had come up with, and that he just didn't have time to draw. And I was like saying, hey, maybe one of my artists would be available to work on it, and that eventually led to the story that was published, ended up being published 9 years later, called Whenever a Bell Rings. Unfortunately, a bunch of real life issues during that time continually prevented it from going forth. But once the 9 years went forward and it was ready to go, I contacted Dave again and let him know, hey, the story is finally about to be ready to go. And he's like, oh, great, yeah, you can put it up on my Fur Affinity account, because at the time the old website that used to host Jack had been offline for about 3 years at that point, and 2 or 3 years, and I in the new stories that were being published was being published on Fur Affinity in his Reaper Rabbit account. During the course of me, showing him the articles, the article I worked on, it just occurred to me, it would be nice if Jack was available online again in the traditional webcomic format that people could read through and see it, kind of like it was on Keen Space and then on the Falf website. So during the course of preparing to publish Whenever a Bell Rings, I brought up to him, like, hey, I've been working with this website Comic Fury for a couple years now. How about I just load Jack on there so that we could have a backup archive of the webcomic? Because at this point, I was always thinking that Dave was going to come back either himself or somebody else he had approached to run the website, to create like a brand new website with its own URL. And I was just thinking, okay, this will just be like what they used to call like a mirror website, just like another online archive for people to read. I said this will just tide the readers over until we get to that point that they actually create a real website. And Dave kind of said, hey, how about, well, why don't you just go ahead and keep on running this website? This can be the new website. I'm like, oh, okay, cool. And, just since I started talking to him, I had other ideas. And so I said, okay, well, as long as we have this website set up, what would happen if I came up with some more stories? He's like, okay, well, what stories you got? And that kind of started the partnership of me, just running some story ideas I had past him. And if he liked the concept, I'd move forward with him.
Okay. Oh, hello. Is everybody there?
Welcome back.
Yeah. I sort of have a starfish answer. Neither of us can really remember the exact origins of these starfish. But we have sussed that they started off as just macabre characters in one of the comics. Giant starfish were chopping another character up with cleavers and butcher knives and things. Just because it's a weird image to see starfish do this sort of thing. And then they were brought back as background characters in another comic. And then Katie did a comedy comic. I don't know if it's in the Jack archive, but is DW, is Katie's a starfish comic in the archive?
Well, there are starfish comics in there. There's the original story.
This would be a specific just starfish one page. I think it's like several panels of the starfish exploring different mediums of theater. Like
there was the vacation photos from Hell pictures. Those had starfish in them sometimes.
Well, no, the one I'm specifically thinking of is it was the starfish were exploring theatrical media. Katie did it as a throwaway joke. And
a Starfish the movie?
Yeah. I think that was it. But one panel would be the starfish. He was leaning over a dead dog, and his arms are raised, just shouting "grr" with tears coming out of his eyes. And one of the panels said comedy, and it was a starfish wearing a clown wig and a clown nose saying "grr." And the most influential one was the theater styling's duty humor. And it was just a starfish with poo coming out of all 5 points of its body, and that's where it started. And then it just sort of evolved from that. So,
I think I found it here, and I posted it in our little chat here.
Oh, okay. Hold on. Let me see. Yeah, that's the one. So that's when they began to poop. Long and short, it's Katie's fault.
If I'm not mistaken, I believe that is true. That is how starfish, how they poop. I think it does come out their arms in real life.
Oh, does it? Okay. Well, I don't think it gushes out in that way, and it's not brown poo, I'm pretty sure.
So it's educational as well.
Let's not say that. That'll get us in trouble with people.
Yes, let's say that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so you've got evil starfish, you've got evil dolphins. I can talk real well.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, you want evil sea creatures, you should put shrimp in your comic, and you know why? Because they're all shellfish.
I'm just going to patiently wait for the next question.
I apologize. So anyhow, I understand that humans were blown the fuck up on Earth and all, but why is it that we rarely ever see any humans in hell or purgatory or heaven?
Oh, there's a real simple explanation for that. Explanation for that.
There you go.
I can't draw them too well.
Oh.
Maybe if I could draw them better, they'd show up more often. But then maybe if I drew humans better, all the characters would be human, and I might be mainstream by now. But since I can't,
he nuked them so he wouldn't have to draw them anymore.
Um, I suppose I can do them passably. Like I've drawn them a couple of times for the comic when the story required it, but I never really liked how they came out, and much better with my furry people than with my human characters.
Yeah, well, they deserved it.
Yeah, since we all
Freaking
have
humans.
it coming. It's that Clint Eastwood line from Unforgiven. We all have it coming, kid.
All right, so about the devil, aka Lucy. So,
Yeah.
Dave, how does it feel to be mistaken for the devil? No wonder you're so devilishly handsome.
That's not true. You ain't seen pictures of me. Well, maybe you saw the one with the shark puppet, but that was years ago. The idea with the devil is that he knows he's in a comic book. So, since he knows he's in a comic book and I can't draw humans, he's decided to make himself look like my furry avatar. And that's basically it. He's just sort of sticking it to me, I guess. Or it's me writing for the devil, sticking it to me.
I see.
I should go back to therapy.
And if we talk about the devil, suppose we should talk about God, aka Cottonmouth.
Yeah, that started off as an insult by some of the more atheistically minded fans that they'd call her Cottonmouth, and then it was just sort of adopted by everybody else because it's an insult, but it was just so gosh darn adorable that
Yeah, cute name.
So we had an artist come up to me and said she wanted to do a story for Jack, and she wanted to do it with. You'll have to help me remind me of the artist there, DW. But,
this is Kitiara.
Kitiara, yes, thank you. And she wanted to do a comic for Jack, and she wanted to do it specifically about God. So Kitty and I took a walk, and we started discussing what kind of story to present her with, because it's a really good artist. We really wanted her to contribute to the comic. And we came up with a story about Central talking to God about our own doubts. And when we were coming up with what kind of character God would be like, I had initially wanted to never portray a character to represent God, because I knew it would be a focal point of insult and from people who don't like the idea of God, and it'd be scorn from people who do like the idea of God and decide I've done it wrong, and that sort of thing. But I feel like there was some divine influence sending Kitiara to come over and say, "Hey, you need to put him in somewhere." So when Kitty and I were talking about what kind of character God is, there's a fine tradition in cartooning of modeling a character's personality off of a real life character actor, right? Like Bugs Bunny has some Groucho Marx in him, and Wacko Warner is one, if not all, of the Beatles, and that sort of thing. At the time, we were rewatching Golden Girls, right? And we both really loved Estelle Getty's character of B. Arthur's mother in that show, and so we started modeling her after that. And Estelle Getty would have a running gag where she says, "Picture it, Sicily, 1892," and so that's why God occasionally says, "Picture it, the beginning of time, before anyone was around." And Estelle Getty would call B. Arthur Pussycat when she was trying to calm her down. That's why God calls everybody Pussycat. And it seemed to work. People like it. It's very, very cute, and I hope it's a good tribute to Getty.
All right. Now, one thing I've noticed: why is it that seemingly only two characters in your comic have solid black eyes, being Lucy and Cottonmouth?
I think that's to represent sort of a higher being. Like the dots for eyes are sort of like the eyes closed to the truth of the universe, and as they get more open, they're more open to the truth or the reality, and so that's suggesting that the devil has no illusions. He knows what he's doing is counter to God's will. But yeah, I think it's just a symbol of being, or I'm not sure.
Eyes
But
wide open.
the sins have gone solid black eyes before as well, haven't they?
Solid black or solid red.
Mhm.
I know that the angels typically, the original angels, like not the former mortals, but like the purpose created angels, like Lucifer, who was one, but also Sky Blue Deer, they have solid, like pupilless, like reflective eyes as well.
Yeah, I think they've got the mirror eyes.
Mirror eyes, yeah.
What does that symbolize? I have no idea. It's just, it differentiates them from the other characters.
It just looks neat. Alright, going back to Lucy here for a second. I don't know if it was just me, but I found it a little confusing that in the same comic, you've got your self-insert blue skunk character, you've got Lucy, and you've got El Driperito. All fairly similar looking characters.
I don't think Drips is that similar to the others, are they? But yeah, my avatar doesn't show up that much, so I'm not too worried about it. And I don't think Drip looks that similar. And most of the time that we see him, he looks like the Tard McFarlane Violator character. So
Very Violator-esque.
fat Violator, I think.
Yeah.
Without a schlong.
Yeah, just I don't think Todd's character had a schlong either. So it's like, we can make this edgy. We can't make it that edgy, guys.
But you draw something there
He
where
can
it
be
looks
named
like
Violator. He can't do any violating.
well, you draw like it looks looks like there should be something there, but there isn't. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah, just like a larger lower belly button or something.
Okay, so
This is the point in your video you like close up on the between it. No, don't do that. That's a bad idea.
this is where we find that photo.
The shark. Oh, it's pretty common. I think it's around the internet somewhere. DW, you know the shark photo I'm talking about, right?
I know it.
Terrible. Awful. And that's like the only picture online of me, I think. So that's what everybody thinks I look like. So.
Draw devil horns and a mustache on it.
Mm-hmm. Oh, I found that puppet in the bin recently. I still have it. Go ahead with your question.
Yeah, we'll take a new photo. Same puppet, same pose.
I'll do that, but I'll get like a celebrity to stand in for me.
All right. Question. Eyes play an important symbol in Jack. So, what do the tiny pupils signify?
You're not quite ready to understand the truth about yourself or about the universe. I think it just it's a way of differentiating the characters that are ready to leave hell and the others who are just sort of either giving up or in it or on their way to finding redemption.
I look at it as basically having a narrow-minded view of the world. Like they've had some of the nuance of the world stripped of them when they died. They just have a very there's the id, the ego, and the superego. These are people who are operating, especially the ones in hell, operating very much off the id. Do I eat? Do I kill? Do I screw? That's basically their day-to-day life and stuff like that in the afterlife. So they don't think on a super ego very kind of version of the universe. So that's how I always interpret it. Like they're somebody who literally is only living for the very next minute.
You put a lot more thought of this than I did. So whatever the next question is, just send it to him. That's.
And what does it mean when their pupils have grown? They've taken LSD.
DW, you want to fill in?
They've been enlightened. Their eyes have been opened. It's basically a metaphor being made physical. Like they've been enlightened. They have a further understanding of themselves. they've become more self-aware, and now they can see the world in a more proper way. Like before, I was only thinking about myself, and I was trapped in my sin, and now I've been enlightened, and I know the way to escape from hell. Like to ask for forgiveness, or recognize your shortcomings, and they're ready to take another crack at life.
I don't want to toot my own horn, but Jack may be the first comic to have a visual aid to describe who's woke or not.
Ah.
No. Ignore that.
And more body parts. Now, I know the story about Nar's missing nose, but he's not the only one, sans schnoz. So is there a symbolic reason for that?
No, it's just I think characters with like rounded noses or look cute. If I were to do a lizard character and he didn't have a nose, you just assume he's got nostrils around there somewhere, and it's the same with those characters. And they're just the rounded snout just kind of looks cute. But like I think Megan would be the best example, right?
Right.
Yeah.
And it's also an instant recognizer that if you ask me what kind of character a character with a rounded snout is, the automatic answer for me is, oh, they're a hodgepodge.
I got
AKA a wuzzle.
Wuzzle, yeah.
I think it's a cute little shorthand for Nar as an innocent character, like that. Like he's been kind of I hesitate to say injured, because he seems to get along just fine in hell and stuff like that, and interacting with others. But it's just an innocent little. It's a little endearing thing. It'd be like if he had an ear that had like a little clip chipped out of it. It'd just be like something like give him a little bit of character.
Now, I mentioned Nar. Nar got reborn into Randy, right?
Yep.
So, do you think Randy will ever reunite with Addie?
I believe so. I think if not, they already have. So, unfortunately, Addie is probably going to be much older than he is. But it'll be a Harold and Maude situation. No. I think they probably will reconnect at an appropriate time in Randy's life and live happily ever after.
Hopefully, it's closer to a Padme and Anakin size age difference.
Hopefully not.
Starting with the
maybe
second
a little
and third
closer together. But
the second and third movies, let's say that.
I mean, like in the first movie, isn't he like a toddler and she's like 19 years old or something?
Yeah, he's like 10. Yeah, so that's why I'm emphasizing the sequels when they're both adults.
All right. So, was there a more detailed origin story in mind for Vince, such as the rise and fall of his religion and overthrow of the government and whatnot?
Yeah, I really don't have a lot for Vince.
Cousin Vinny?
No. I'm hoping DW can think of something during his tenure, because I don't have much. He was mostly just to fill in the slot of the Seven Sins, because people kept asking, okay, well, what was this one and what's the other one, and I don't have much. Just if I don't have a great idea, I don't like to just jump into it, but I was kind of forced. Vince. I think he can be made into an interesting character. I just don't think I can.
I think of it kind of like in The Godfather. The five families. We follow the Corleones, of course, and of course the Barzini and Tatalia make up a big chunk of the thing. But the Strachey and the Cunios and stuff like that, they're there. They're part of the story, but nobody really knows that much about them. They just really show up just to fill it out so there could be five of them. So yeah, I kind of figured like that. Like, not every single sin needs to have a deeply filled out background. Sometimes you just need somebody to be the scary monster for that story.
Yeah. So, Darkwing, tell me about your influences as a writer.
Oh boy. Okay. As far as comics go, some of the
nice.
What's that?
You mentioned me. Nice. That's cool.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, I would be remiss here if I didn't mention Dave. He had a big part in inspiring me to have my own webcomic.
Oh, stop. That's
Both directly and indirectly. I was following along that story, and I said, "Hey, I'd like to do that too." Other inspirations writing wise, as far as comics go, Frank Miller, his work on stories like The Dark Knight Returns, Sin City, definitely take you down some dark roads, some kind of film noirish kind of writing style.
Martha Washington Goes to Mars or the Moon.
Oh yes, definitely. Martha Washington in the 21st century. Some Frank Miller and Dave Gibbons. Yeah, that's.
Nobody remembers that one.
I have the whole collection. Yeah, you're right. Nobody remembers it. I like it for the satirical purposes. It's a pretty fun story.
Mm-hmm.
It's a brick if you have to read it. It's like over 600 pages. But yeah, that's a good run. Ronin, his original story he did. Some of the work he did on Daredevil. And of course, Dark Knight Returns and Batman Year Run. Other comic writers, Garth Ennis, his run on The Punisher and Preacher and the Boys. And definitely, I read all those. Transmetropolitan, I believe that's Warren Ellis. That one, I like that as a comic writer. Paul Dini, his work on Zatanna. For mainstream comics, those were the major story writers that I followed for that. Was that?
Can I interject real quick?
No.
Go ahead.
Why is it that when you said Paul Dini, my first thought was some Jawa being surprised? Go on, please.
Houdini! Paul Dini, he's a comic book artist and writer. He worked on Batman the animated series, but he's most famous for being the biggest cheerleader for Zatanna, the magic superhero, the one who dresses like a stage magician. He's actually what's that?
I think I could have guessed that one.
He's actually married to a real life stage magician, so I'm sure that's his little fetish.
But, he's married to Penn Jillette?
That would be funny if he was, but no, it's a female stage magician. I like his stories. I think he's a fun storyteller. See here, as far as like non-comic writers, see here, I've read quite a few Raymond Chandlers. So any of the Philip Marlowe hardboiled detective novels, Dashiell Hammett, like the Maltese Falcon, some Mickey Spillane with his Frank Hammer stories, Mike Hammer stories, and I like that. I like some lighthearted stuff. Eric Garcia, he did this story called Anonymous Rex about a dinosaur private eye, and really my story, my sense of humor comes from 1980s Saturday morning cartoons, Ninja Turtles, anything from the 80s or 90s like Batman the animated series, The Tick, Freakazoid, Animaniacs. That's kind of like that era. That's my wheelhouse for childhood inspiration that kind of more or less inspired my own action stories.
I gotcha.
Mad Magazine. So Mad Magazine's my last little bit of inspiration for satire, any of that kind of humor.
Mm-hmm. Do you like Jeff Loeb?
Jeff Loeb, yes. He did The Long Halloween, I believe. And what's that? I'm sorry?
I said yes. I was agreeing with you.
Yes, he did The Long Halloween and the follow-up, Dark Victory. Those are both great stories. Those are two of my favorite Batman stories. So yes, I do like those.
Cool. All right. And next, both of you guys, when working, do you listen to music or podcasts or YouTube, etc.?
I've started, not started, I guess. Oh, hi, puppy. I make a playlist for each project that I work on to listen to while I work on. But when not listening to music, it is podcasts and talk shows, that sort of thing. Mostly news centered, because I like being depressed.
That'll do it.
So the whole angst of the artist thing.
I'll listen to for music. Yeah, I'll listen to music. I like classic rock. I like some country music. I'll listen to hip hop and other genres and stuff like that. Also, I'll listen to funny newscast podcast or YouTube channels like Red Letter Media. You know, if they have a new Best of the Worst, I'll probably have that as background. Things like that. Cinema Snob, any kind of Cinema Snob or Brandon Tanold or Decker Shadow, any kind of those goofy B movie review channels and stuff like that. I usually have those as background noise when I'm writing.
I know all of those. Wow.
Excellent.
What the hell? So again, another question for the both of you. From where do you draw inspiration for your stories?
Let's see. From where do I draw?
Cocaine.
Oh, no, not cocaine.
LSD.
Hold on. DW, do you have an answer?
Basically,
don't answer yet. Just the question was, do you have an answer?
I do have an answer. Yes.
Oh, okay. Well, I think just for novelty, this time we'll both answer at the same time. Okay. All right. 3,
Okay.
2, 1. Well, I draw most of
Classic
my
comic books, and I enjoy the Saturday morning cartoons. That definitely helps it. I try to follow along with some of the
sometimes my dog will talk to me
storytelling,
and give me great ideas that way,
and variety of different
verses from the Bible,
classic novels.
Occasionally,
pulp kind of superheroes. Continues kind of cliffhanger stories.
The medication I take, yeah, that sometimes.
Thank you. That was very enlightening.
You're welcome.
No, what sort of recreational drugs do you take?
Dr. Pepper.
Oh,
Caffeine.
Oh, yeah.
Cherry Dr. Pepper, if I can find it. It's almost nowhere.
Either of you do have certain voice actors in your head when you read your characters' voices. Now, this is not
Jack's always Sam Elliott.
Oh.
He'd never
To me, Jack is always Clancy Brown.
Clancy Brown. Yeah.
Clancy Brown for me.
Oh, Clancy Brown, we might actually have a shot of getting. So
yeah.
I was going to go Keith David.
Keith David would be a good choice.
That'd be a good one, yeah.
But Drip,
maybe
Gilbert Godfrey.
Jonathan Banks might later round. Jonathan Banks might be a good Jack. Any of his Breaking Bad era.
But Gilbert Godfrey for
Drippers.
For Drip. I loved Gilbert Godfrey, but unfortunately he's dead now. And
yeah. Well, I won't stop him.
I had a friend of mine once suggest that a good voice for Drip would be Sebastian the Crab from The Little Mermaid. So when people ask that's usually the answer I get.
To me, it would have to be something like Al Pacino's performance in Dick Tracy. That's how I'd picture someone like Drip, somebody who's like really sleazy and megalomaniacal and stuff like that, and like having like angry bursts and stuff like that when he doesn't get his way, throwing a table over and stuff like that. That's how I got to see Drip played.
Oh, well, in that case, why not Danny DeVito?
Ironically, Danny DeVito would be too big for us.
Already played the Violator, right?
Right.
Did he? No, that was John Leguizamo.
Oh.
Someone like Central would have to be like a nice, kind of like even-keeled voice, like someone like Gina Davis. I could see someone like Gina Davis voicing her.
I always thought for Central, and this could be way out of left field. I always liked Queen Latifah's voice, not her singing voice, but her acting voice.
Okay.
One of my favorite movies is one she's starring in called Last Holiday, and it's she gets a medical prognosis that she's going to die, so she ends up spending all of her savings at this fancy hotel and eating all these wonderful meals that she had always been dieting and avoiding, and she just lives her life to the fullest. And it turns out that the doctor misread her diagnosis, but
of course,
it's just a fun little movie, and she's a very nice character to follow along.
For someone like Farrago, I'd need someone like kind of like a sweet, innocent voice, something like a Reese Witherspoon. That'd probably work for her.
All right. What's this shit? Can you explain yourself?
Fuck. Okay. Katie's drawings. All right. Let me see which one. Carmelie Fair's gotta pee. Oh, nope. I can't explain that one at all. That's no. This is not one of Katie's. But nope. I haven't a fucking clue. It appears to be a play on Pulp Fiction, but I don't really understand it.
Yeah, the one where Salem has an afro. Goes after Peppy.
He's apparently Samuel Jackson, but I'm a little miffed that I was not John Travolta. I'm instead that weenie guy who sits at the table and looks at
Tim Roth?
Tim Roth, yeah.
Hey, Tim Roth was pretty cool in it's the one with Liam Neeson, the Scottish one.
Okay, well, this isn't Rob Roy. I haven't seen Rob Roy. Right? This was Pulp Fiction, and he was a weenie. I love you, honey bunny.
You talking to Tim Roth?
I suppose so. But yeah, no, I've got no clue what this was. Something the artist had a wild hair about and wanted to do. It looks to be he did a good job with the art. I believe it's a nice cartoony style. I'm not sure what all the weird orgasmic faces on the shirt I'm off. They look like My Little Pony. I don't know, but
that is My Little
Pony.
I
I don't understand the impetus or the point that was trying to be made with this one.
Oh, fair enough.
I'm just happy to be a part of it.
Of course. So, am I misreading something from the comic, or is Randy implied to be the offspring of your character and Katie's?
That's the implication, yeah.
All right. Yep. Sharpshooter indeed.
Mm-hmm.
Now, is Lucy also implying that Randy is going to be the Antichrist?
Yeah, I've heard that theory, but no, that's not the direction I'm going.
All right.
I don't know what DW is planned, but no.
Now you are
Randy, Destroyer of Worlds.
You are a fan of the movie Antichrist, I've noticed.
Yeah, I've referenced it a couple times, but fan, I'm not so sure. I like William Dafoe.
Does not get treated well.
Who's the director of that? Help me remember the name. Werner, was it Werner Herzog? Is the director?
No, it's the guy who did the one with Nicole Kidman, with it was shot on a stage.
Okay,
the guy.
Melancholia.
I've seen that one too.
Yeah, part of the Depression trilogy. How delightful!
Well, because I like Kiefer. Lars von Trier, yeah.
Yes,
I do watch him his movies out of just the morbid curiosity of it, but no. There's some cool scenes like a fox shouting to the world, "Chaos reigns," and then there's
I know from that.
and then there's some horrible scenes like William Dafoe's nuts being slammed together between some iron weights, and then his penis ejaculating blood. That make it a movie I'm probably not going to watch ever again.
Classy. All right, so. Both of you guys, have your parents been supportive of your works?
Oh, you go ahead first, DW.
Oh, my parents have no idea my connection with this comic or any other comic. They have been supportive of my other works, my other writings and such. They definitely cheer me on. I'm hoping to become a published writer sometime, but as far as this, no, they have no idea it exists.
Well, my father is very vocal about his support for me. He does keep up with many, not all, of the things I do. And on my mother's side, well, I haven't seen her in a decade, so I'm not really sure what she thinks. And because of past incidences, I don't really care. So
I gotcha. And yeah, I listened to the interview with your old man. Very funny guy. And you dedicated Rework the Dead to him, and rather enjoyed the Debts arc.
Well, that one was mainly stories the old man would tell me about his time in service as bedtime stories.
How delightful. That you slept well.
No, I didn't.
Did you say that pooping on a landmine story was real?
Yes. He was in the DO. Is it DOE? Yeah, Explosive Ordnance. Yeah, I can't remember the last word, but they got rid of munitions, and he and Buddy were getting rid of landmines, or piling them on the truck to take them to detonate them. And the guy needed to take a bathroom, go to the bathroom, and walked into the jungle a little bit and shot on the landmine.
Guessing he did not survive that.
No, that's a good guess.
Yeah.
Because people stepping on landmines, they're meant to kill them, right? So squatting over one. I'm fairly certain that he didn't feel much of anything.
Yeah, talking about your explosive diarrhea.
Yes, let's continue to make jokes out of this dead man.
Well, life is full of darkness, and might as well make light of it.
Oh, the morbid humor is the way to cope with the dysfunctions of life.
Yeah, but you've gotten a lot of positive feedback about the Debts arc.
I did when it was running. Don't hear too much about it nowadays, but yeah.
Because that was a while ago.
Yeah, it was a bit ago.
So, can you explain to us in simple terms about the seventh wall?
No, I'd have to reread that arc to remember what the hell I said about it.
Well, but, never mind.
I think it's the first wall is the backdrop. That's the setting. That's the place you're in, and then number 2 and number 3 would be exit stage left and right, where people come in and leave, and events begin and end in our lives. And the fourth wall, of course, is the invisible wall between the stage and the audience. And then there's the fifth and the sixth, the parts you stand on. This is where you stand your ground. This is your opinions, your beliefs, your morals. And then there's the sky for the sixth wall. That is the aspirations, the dreams, and all the rest. Thank you. I need my own explanation. And then I believe the seventh wall is the spirituality part, the things that are beyond the world that you know. And the difference between the seventh and the fourth is the character can recognize that he's being watched. The seventh wall is him actually participating in the process of being watched or something. I don't know. Yeah, it's ethereal, and it sounded a lot better when I wrote it out rather than trying to explain it now.
I see. It's odd though that this character has tiny pupils.
Oh yeah, he's not woke yet. He knows about the truth about the world around him, but he doesn't know the truth about himself.
He's #not woke.
Not woke.
Now, I know there's already been one arc focusing on purgatory, but what would you say is the motivation for someone to ever leave that place?
Place just to go beyond. Like, I think it's a very human feeling to say, okay, I'm content. I'm in a spot where everything is going right for me, and then to say, well, let's see if I can do better, right? To move, to continue to move forward, not just become trapped in complacency. For a lot of people, that'd be fine, but for many, I believe, no, they'd have to go on. Like there's a coming argument about virtual reality and AI and the rest of that. So, right. Some people are going to be content to live in the virtual world and just think they're eating steak, but really getting food mush injected in them every day, and just believe it's going perfectly and just live in that imaginary world. And then there are some people who are not going to be satisfied with living in the imaginary world, and will accept the pain and struggles of the real world because it is the real world. And I feel like the purgatory situation is like that. It's the AI virtual reality world, but it's not the real one.
I see. So it's somewhat analogous to the Matrix, somewhat?
I suppose, yeah.
Now, can you tell us about the circumstances which brought about Frigid McThunderballs?
Yeah, I've been wanting to do a Killer Snowman story since I was in high school. I had to walk to the bus stop and see snowmen that people had made during the winter time, and I'd think about I'd like to do a scene with him like holding two submachine guns and and talking, pouring out bad language out of his mouth and everything, just being immature and disgusting. And so that just sat in the back of my mind for a while. And then one day on the way to work, my art bag gets stolen. It included expensive pens and markers and pages that I had started for the Ben reading Job story, and another side story that I had been working on at the time, and just it was very devastating and a big setback. And the idea of getting right back into working on those stories seemed incredulous at the time, or just a little bit too much. So just comparing it all to what was lost, and thinking, oh well, it would have been better if we'd kept those. So to get over all that shit, the snowman story got started instead, because it was stupid, it was silly, it didn't matter, and it was just fun to do. So it was getting the loss of work out of my system by engaging in something stupid.
I gotcha.
Because I think if I had tried to force myself to redraw all the stuff that I'd lost in that moment, I think I probably would have quit. It was just a little bit much at the time. But so, and everybody hated Frigid McThunderbones when it was running, but little did they know that it saved the series.
And thank God for that.
Hold on, DW. DW, where'd you go?
I'm right here.
Okay. Were you around when Frigid was running?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I remember when it ran.
And what was your opinion of it as it was running?
I was amused by it, but like a lot of people in the forum, my attitude was like, okay, let's wrap this up and get back to Jack. Now that it's years later and it's just there in the archives, yeah, it's fun to read through and stuff like that. But like, yeah, I think the general feeling for a lot of folks in the forum was, yeah, this is amusing, but let's get back to the story.
Yeah, and I understand that. That's fine. But I
didn't hate it.
My reasons still stand.
I did not hate it. I thought it was funny. It just wasn't really what I was interested in.
Were you there for the Goth Farago scandal?
Or the Goth Farago?
Right, when Farago returned after leaving for a while, and
oh yeah. I started reading the comic in ironically during Welcome to Purgatory.
Okay.
The comic. So so everything from that point forward, I was there for. Yeah.
I see.
Yeah, I remember. Some people liked their new design. Other people were like, what's this?
Yeah, there was people who declared the old Farago dead, and this is Goth Farago.
Right.
But, and that's fine too. They're allowed to say that. Go ahead with your questions, Z.
Why is Janet Reno in this comic?
Again, because it was silly, stupid, and I thought it was funny.
Fair enough.
Not everything has a deep dive psychologically. Some of us just like surface humor.
Yeah, sometimes that's the way.
It could have really been any politician from that time, and just Janet Reno was the first one to pop up. So.
All right. So, a lot of your readers aren't necessarily believers, religious people, spiritual, what have you, and yet your works still have a lasting effect on them. Do you have any idea why that might be? Now, my guess is the blood and the big furry titties.
Even people have made up their mind about spirituality and the possibilities of the next life. And let me say that Jack is not reflective of what I think the afterlife is like. I really don't know, and anybody who says they do know is trying to sell you something. But I think even people who have made up their minds about that thing are still curious about it, or we'll look at it as sort of the same way we view Greek mythology, as an entertaining piece of myth or folklore. But I don't think you have to be a Christian or into the Abrahamic beliefs to get something out of Jack, because even without the religious connection, there's still universal truths about good and evil and right and wrong that people can connect with. We don't have to have the same beliefs to agree that rape and murder is a bad thing. And I think some of the appeal is that the comic speaks to some of those universal truths. What do you think, DW?
Oh, I kind of agree. Yeah, definitely. Obviously, I enjoy Jack as a piece of, fiction, stuff like that. The spiritual aspects of it, I guess, if anything else, is the thing that kind of kept me into it for as long as it was. There have been other comics I've read over time that, I enjoyed them for a while, then I lost interest and stuff like that. There's something about there's something that Jack taps into where it's like as you say, even people who aren't spiritual and stuff like that, we have we live in a universe that has seemingly rules and also chaos at the same time, and it's comforting to people to get some kind of reassurance that there's order to the universe. And likewise, I hesitate to use the term hate watch, but there were definitely people who were fans of Jack who really, really didn't like the heaven side of the story. They did not care for Mother / God, and they really didn't like Central. That was a big running discussion on the forums for a long time, how much a lot of people really did not like Central. And that was I think people placing any kind of anger or dislike they have towards the concept of a god, a supposedly just god, and any inconsistencies they might see in the way they run the universe, or basically just how unfair the universe. And there was definitely something about the story, I think, that speaks to people on that level. I personally think that ultimately the angels in the heaven and in the comic are on the side of good. I honestly feel that. Sometimes
You wouldn't write about them so much if you didn't.
Right, exactly. I definitely wouldn't have been attracted enough to write about them if I didn't. I just trying to say that it's sometimes fun to explore this concept, if that makes any sense. There's definitely there's things where you might be angry about and say, hey, how come the world works this way? How come this person is rewarded and this person isn't? How come there's supposed to be comfort but you don't get it? It's just we don't live in a world now where there's burning bushes or a heavenly glow coming down from the heavens to talk to people. We kind of have to take it on faith that there's an afterlife and there's spirituality. So Jack kind of reflects that. It kind of reflects that view that, like, hey, I think I'm doing the right thing. I think I'm a good person, but who knows?
I hesitate to suggest that burning bush might actually be hemp, but
that's possible. That's always possible.
Or your never mind. Anywho, DW. So I'm curious, what's this fascination with the multi-headed, multi-armed thing?
Oh dear Lord.
Can you blame anyone in specific for this?
I blame him.
Dave, you're going to be very upset for the next couple minutes. Okay. Dave, who does not particularly care for any kind of unusual body types, any kind of extra arms, and definitely not TARS. He wrote a Jack arc back in the 2000s called Jeremy and Joanne, and they were characters who had appeared in a comic before.
Two arms, two legs.
They are 2 arms, 2 legs. One of them is a raccoon, and the other one I think is some kind of dog, like a coyote. I'm trying to remember what Jeremy was. Some kind of dog. And in any case, the story starts with a anthropomorphic representation of Uncle Kagi, one of the
damn it, Kagi.
I did not know that.
If you're familiar with the furry fandom, he's connected with the oh darn, my brain's going blank now.
Anthrocon.
Anthrocon? Yeah, Anthrocon.
Yeah.
And
I don't know if he shares it anymore, but he used to.
He would at the time, definitely at the time, he was one of the big representatives, and his persona, for lack of a better word, was a cockroach. And so Dave drew him with four arms, and I just thought that was fascinating. And really, I was on an IRC. Look at me dating myself.
This Cuggy was a celebrity, and that his character had 4 arms. So it
was definitely memorable. It was definitely memorable for that time. So I was in this IRC. Was that?
I said, "What have you done?"
Me. So
I was in this IRC chat. Like I said, this is me dating myself. This is even before Skype or anything like that. And I had brought up the comic, and literally I only wanted to talk about it for 5 minutes. I said, "Hey, isn't this pretty cool?" And every single person in the chat shot me down. Everyone's like saying, "No, 4 arms isn't cool. That's redundant, and there's no reason to have more than 2 arms." I
remember I was in that chat.
What's that?
No kidding.
Yeah, you might have been in there undercover for all I know. Yeah. And for the life of me, nobody would even give me a token bit of, if all I needed was one person to say, "Yeah, that's pretty cool," I would have moved on with my life. That would have been the end of it. But I got so offended that nobody wanted to even hear me out that I said, "You know what? I'm going to write a story with somebody with multiple arms just to show that it can be useful." And I ended up writing a story. And in the course of writing the story, I discovered there was actually a thing. It was called multi-furry. I had no idea it was a thing. I literally just stumbled onto it while writing the story.
And they haven't been talked about since for years until today.
Right. And basically, after writing the story, I couldn't get out of my system. I just kept on coming up with more and more multi-arm characters, and
David just kept crying and crying. That's
right. Each time I got an opportunity to commission Dave to draw one of my characters, a little part of his soul died each time. So even though he draws him so cute,
I am now empty.
The way you drew him was very cute. So in any case, as far as my original persona, I wasn't even a furry when I first started. I was into transformation fiction. And everybody in that fandom had
I thought I was a freak. Go ahead.
Everybody in that fandom had a nom de plume. So I just, on a whim, I came up with equestrian. I liked horses just in general. Like I never was a cowboy. I never grew up on a ranch or a farm or anything like that. There was a horse pasture next to the neighborhood I used to live in. So that was my only connection with horses.
You live in Texas.
What's that?
You live in Texas, and you've never.
I do live in Texas. Yes, it was an urban horse pasture. That was the thing that was neat about it. Like I lived in Houston, but in the city limits there was a couple different spots where there were horse pastures. They're all gone now. They've been replaced with townhomes and stuff like that. But
oh, great!
But at least as late as the 90s, there was still places, urban little horse pastures in the city, and so that's where that came from, and it just evolved over time. So. I had several other multi-furry friends who had multi-headed characters, and you just see enough of their art over time that you kind of cave and said, "Okay, well, let me try it with it too." And it just caught on. People said, "Yeah, that looks cool." So I'm like, "Okay."
You gave into peer pressure.
I gave into peer pressure, exactly. Long story short for this whole thing is that I was surrounded by people, and they said I'd be cool if I did it, and I listened to them, and I wanted to be one of the cool kids. And
you got groomed.
I got groomed, and I learned it by watching you.
Oh, fuck you!
How could you?
That's it. The deal's off. I'm done.
Okay, next question. I'm gonna play devil's advocate here. Oh, Dave, you wrote about this fairly recently in a journal about Anthro Friday the 13th. How can one who partakes in graphic violence and, as I said, the big furry titties also call themselves a Christian?
Oh, the separation between fiction and reality.
Gotcha.
Yeah, there's a difference between what you do in your real life and what you draw. That's how you can do those things. And as I've gotten to know people, fellow artists who also engage in macabre art and just the more grisly side of illustrating or comics or just whatever. I tend to find that they're very pleasant and personable people because I feel because they're able to get whatever little hate machine that's inside their bodies out on paper and sort of trap it on paper. And I believe if you've got some weirdness or some darkness inside you, that catching it on paper or in writing or in fiction is a good way to get it out of your real life to make yourself a better person.
Right, makes
And
sense.
that's what God's all about, right?
Yeah.
As far as me, sorry, I don't know if this was intended for both of us or if it was just a Dave question.
Oh no,
No,
DW,
sure.
please add it.
You know, all I can say is look, like every other human being in the world, I live in the world, and you know, it's I'm not a monk. You know, like I'm affected by the things I watch and the entertainment I consume and the you know the world I live in as much as the next person, stuff like that. So all I can say is God, I don't really mean it. This is just entertainment. I'm not actually advocating for some of the bad things that happen in the stuff I write. This isn't my morality. It's like I said, just escapism. You know, it's just.
Meanwhile, God's upstairs saying, "Hey, I'm dealing with this thing in the Middle East. All right, I ain't got no time for you."
And you're saying it was just a prank, bro.
When I was walking on the beach, I saw two sets of footsteps and every footprints. And one time there was only one footprint. I said, God, where were you? And he was like, I'm dealing with one of the 7 billion other people in the world, you selfish bastard.
Ain't got time for your shit.
Yeah, I don't have time to walk on the beach with you. There's wars going on all over the world.
And then you say, "Well, aren't you omnipresent?" And he says, "Fuck, God damn."
Always got the loophole.
All right. So, if there's anywhere in the world you guys could visit, where would that be?
I'm not a very big travel person. Especially since they tore down Camp Novi Bosco. Maybe Israel sometime. That's the sort of birthplace of a modern religion for the Judaism and Catholicism, Christianity and Islam.
Mm-hmm.
So that'd be an interesting place to visit, I think. Maybe someday when it's not being bombed.
Yeah.
That'd be good. Plus, I got to visit the IWI factory and see all the shit they're up to. That'd be cool.
I know Dave here is talking from Washington. I have never seen the Pacific Ocean.
No,
The
it ain't
furthest
that
west
impressive.
I've gotten is Vegas and stuff like that. So I would definitely want to see the West Coast at least sometime before I die. The rest of the world, you know, I wouldn't mind seeing some spots in Europe. Places like in Romania, you know, areas like Transylvania is supposed to be beautiful. The valleys, the castles, and stuff like that. I would like to see, you know, England. You know, there'd be places in England I'd like to see, but those are my wish spots.
All right. You guys have hobbies outside the fandom?
Used to do a lot of Nerf modding, but not so much lately. It's just, I like to weaponize Nerf guns. I have a couple on my desk that I'm still working on. I did a couple paintings, and they're up in the scrap section of my FA account. But I do things like replace the triggers and add another spring to it, or bigger spring to it. Mostly just to make the little foam darts hurt people when I hit them. But it's kind of a pointless effort now because companies like Dart Zone have been making guns like that, or foam launching guns like that for a little while now, and Nerf itself has even started making more high-powered stuff. So modding just doesn't really seem like it makes sense when you can get it straight out of the box. But repainting them is still kind of fun. Other hobbies, Halo. I play a lot of Halo.
Fun.
And yeah, go ahead.
No, sorry, I didn't know if you were following up with him or if you want me to pop in here.
No, I'd like to hear from you as well.
All right. Outside of comics, I also like trying my hand at prose fiction. I don't know if I mentioned this before. I've taken a crack. I've written a couple novels, obviously unpublished. I tried to go the traditional literary agent route, but 80 plus rejections later, I'm thinking maybe it's me, not them, or the entire industry is wrong. That's always a possibility too. And I'll probably take a crack at self-publishing if that doesn't pan out, trying to go the traditional route. Other
Don't
than
worry,
that,
DW. Someday they will recognize your multi-armed Gone with the Wind as a work of art.
oh boy. The other than writing, I watch a lot of humorous videos and stuff like that. I like watching cheesy B movies. I'll admit it and stuff like that. If it's a Roger Corman or a Albert Band, I might give it a chance and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Lifelong fascination with those kinds of movies. I watched Chopping Mall when I was 8 years old, and it forever affected me.
Dick Miller, yay!
Dick Miller, yep. It is a fun movie to watch.
Hilarious movies like Schindler's List.
Speaking of Liam Neeson,
Man, I
like-
saw Schindler's List in the theater. There were Nazis in the crowd. They were
Really?
cheering him on. No, it was not a comfortable experience.
Washington?
damn.
No. Yeah, in Washington. We got lots of woods here.
Wait, what?
I think it means like militia, like kind of like in
Yeah.
survivalist,
There are
those
lots
kind
of people who hide out in the woods. Yeah.
yeah. The worst I ever did was I ate popcorn while watching Passion of the Christ.
Still haven't seen that
I
one.
bought some popcorn for that one when I saw it in the theater.
You're at the movies. You can eat popcorn. What's wrong with that?
Right.
No licorice whips?
No licorice whips, no. Although my friend who was a youth pastor gave me like a dirty look when I bought popcorn. I went to see it with him. Like, whoa,
Tell
we're
him
on
to
the
have
movies. I gotta eat
calm
popcorn.
down.
All right. Next question.
No, why do you
Have,
go to the movies if not to get popcorn? You don't eat popcorn at home. You just eat it at the movie. I'm sorry.
Right.
No. Jesus wants you to eat popcorn while you watch Passion. Okay, go ahead.
Are you not entertained?
No,
No.
that was a different movie. It was Russell Crowe.
Anyways, have either of you ever experienced anything supernatural, something you couldn't explain rationally?
Well, I'm gonna say the same thing you said last time. Yes, this question.
Yeah.
About a month ago, I watched the president dodge a bullet.
Yeah.
Uh,
Crazy stuff.
Aside from that, no, not really.
I've not seen anything majorly supernatural, but I definitely survived a couple situations where I definitely felt there was definitely some divine intervention going on to keep me alive. At least 2 car wipeouts and getting stuck on the side of a not a mountain, but pretty tall up. But I would have fell. I would have died, and I was stuck on the side of it, and somebody helped me get out of it. So I definitely never tried climbing any kind of hill or mountain again after that. So,
Well, no, I've certainly had some near misses, but no, I think everybody has.
right,
And, they've all escaped because they're all still here. But
right. We're not hearing stories from the ones who didn't make it.
no, not really.
I mean,
I don't
everybody
think
in life is a survivor until they're not.
Oh, well. In terms of questions, looks like that's about all I have. So, is there anything you guys wanted to cover?
Shit, I don't know. DW, you got any ideas?
What's that?
You got any ideas?
Me? Oh, I mean, just in general here that while Dave continues to work on his finale, his official exit from the traditional Jack story, that I lean on him a lot for any of the stories that I help formulate at the moment. I know at some point in the future it's going to be more or less all me, but as long as I have his ear and I want to make sure that I can have the proper interpretation of the characters, that's what I'm going to do. Because unfortunately, some people I've spoke to, some people I've worked with aren't here anymore, I have a character who is going to be showing up in an upcoming side arc I wrote, and he appeared previously. He was one of the ghosts that appeared in Those Who Run. His character, and I had used him before in cameos in a couple other projects I worked on, but sadly he passed away. He passed away last year. I got to show him a preview of some of the story pages I've done, but it's the story isn't going to be premiering until next week. So I mean, he did not get to see the finished story in his lifetime. So tomorrow's promised to no one. So I just hopefully hope that I can do a little bit in helping immortalize some folk that I've ran into over the years.
Well, make sure you acknowledge him on page 1 then.
I definitely will.
Okay.
Yeah, sorry to hear about that. Oh, before I forget, DW.
So a very nice guy and a big fan of Farago. You really love Farago. That's one of his favorite characters.
DW, you should probably promote your own comics.
Ah, yes. Okay. Well, I have a couple of comics that kind of update kind of irregularly right now. The very first one I had, and this is the one that more or less of all the comics I do. Well, no, I'll get to that in a second. I think Dave had pretty much the multi-arm thing shows up most in this story. It's a comic called At Arm's Length. It's hosted on the Comic Fury, like all the other comics I'm involved in. Atarmslength.net. I got a URL for it, and it's just the story of three magical ladies. They are part of a race that broke off from mortals. It's a furry comic, so I can't call them humans, even though for all intents and purposes, call them animal humans. They went off on their ancestors encountered something magical that changed them, so now they're a magical race. And they secretly live undercover on Earth, kind of like magical superheroes, and they fight magical threats to the Earth while trying to keep a low profile. And it's humor. I was going for sort of a 1980s Ninja Turtle-esque kind of storytelling where it's, monster of the week, fight the villains and that kind of thing, and sardonic kind of humor. And all the main characters have extra arms. Yes, I'd be remiss if I didn't point that out.
Of course.
Tick tick. The other webcomics I have is one called Off Centered. It's another one that Dave will love. It's me and a person I know online. We randomly transformed into centaurs. It was a tribute comic to a friend of ours who had a centaur persona, for lack of a better term. I don't know if he identified as a furry. He had his avatar. His avatar was a centaur, and he wrote some centaur transformation stories. He passed away sadly. Another person I know connected to passed away sadly. He was working overnight shift at a convenience store and just had a brain aneurysm. It happens. Like it's no warning and stuff like that. He was still in his 40s. No, just life can slip away from you really quickly without warning. So I created the comic as like sort of a tribute to him, and it's just done tongue in cheek. It's like what would happen if a certain percentage of the population just randomly transformed into centaurs one day. Like takes place in like a modern setting and just dealing with the issues that they deal with in day-to-day life. And another comic I'm involved in was the one that was most inspired by Dave's comic Jack. I have a web comic called After Forever, and it follows like kind of like a lot of the same tactics, but I write it differently than Jack. It like After Forever it's a little bit more humorous. The tone of it's more deliberately a comedy, if that makes any sense. It's not just like a few sardonic comments here and now and stuff like that. I'm deliberately shooting it for it to be humorous, and it just deals with angels and the bureaucracy they deal with in the afterlife.
All right. Actually, that brings up another question. Are we ever going to see any higher order angels such as Seraphim and the like in Jack?
As far as I know, he's retired.
Seraphim. Yeah. I gotcha.
I mean, I'm assuming that the original angels, like, Sky's generation of angels, that they fill that template, like they're the ones that were the angels that were specifically created by God to be angels. They're not like former mortals who have ascended to a higher realm of existence. They were purposely created as angels. I guess Sky's sister, Aeolette, she would probably be one.
Well, you've shown a much more of an interest in the heaven side of things than I did with my stories. So I'm going to leave all that to you, and you have fun with it.
I can work with that. Yeah, I will admit, one thing that attracted me to Jack in original was obviously the dark, the dark, edgy, hellscape is the most memorable thing about the comic, and it definitely is the thing that grabbed my attention. But I was always kind of interested in the angel side of the story, so maybe too much, at least for the stories I've written so far, to the detriment of the hell side. I'll definitely swing back more that way in the future for future stories. But yeah, it's unfortunate the stories I got upcoming right now, they tend to be a little bit more angel oriented. I was like, I should probably swing back to talking more about the other stuff. So
Yeah, they've probably heard enough about the hell and all the rest. The angel side of things is probably refreshing. So don't worry.
There's that too.
I believe there's a popular perception that heaven is a bit boring, if I'm honest.
Yeah. I think it's mainly because I haven't touched it or talked about it much. So
I tried to hint when I wrote a story earlier this year that dealt with reckoning dating on the dating scene and stuff like that. I tried to hint that there's all kinds of wonders in heaven, like there was folks that you can go like ice skating through the sky, obviously the rules of gravity don't apply to you. You can ski in 3 dimensions and that kind of thing. I tried to hint at the fact that it would be like heaven would be like, well, if we're going with the Matrix and stuff like that, it'd be like a situation where different sections of it are glitching for fun. You get to do stuff that you would never get to do on Earth. You'd get to, things like dodos are living in the park. There's new movies are being made by people who like performers who have passed on. I made a comment about, I think, the Marx Brothers getting together with somebody else to make a movie. I just figured like all these people living in heaven would encounter each other. Like all these celebrities and stuff like that. They would run into each other and they might want to collaborate on a project. So there's probably movies that we can't even comprehend on Earth being created in heaven simply because they're not tied down to any of the rules of physics that we have here on Earth and stuff like that. So that's what I kind of try to hint at and stuff like that. There's all kinds of wonders to experience and just things that you can't do on Earth.
Well, I think heaven is probably going to look pretty sparse. Not because I don't think most people go there, but because I think most people who end up in heaven are then sort of left to build their own. The difference between purgatory and heaven being that the people in heaven have the godly powers to create their own worlds, and that's what I think is the draw. But
everybody gets their own holodeck.
At least in the comic, I stated that God's intention with creating humanity is to create replacements for herself, to train people into becoming gods themselves, and just go on to either populate other planets or populate other dimensions or whatever. But so that the cycle continues. This is the life cycle of a deity, is that they create life, and then the life evolves and grows and matures, and then becomes other gods that separate to other dimensions or whatever. And there might even be multiple deities in the Jack universe that may eventually interact with each other. I don't know what DW's plans are, but
how very Mormon-esque.
Yeah. Is that Mormon? Shit. I did not mean for it to be. Okay.
Oh, it's there's the concept in Latter-day Saints and stuff like that the God of our universe isn't the main god. Like
No.
every like there's multiple universes and each one gets its own god and stuff like that, and you can end up becoming a god in your own universe if you achieve the highest form of whatever.
I heard that in Sunday school, but okay, go ahead.
The way I write heaven,
that probably spreads out to multiple religions, but yeah, go ahead.
sorry if I'm sorry about
No,
that.
no, you're fine. But
the I could be wrong. That's just the way what I've heard. That's what I've heard about it. The way I write heaven stuff like that is I write the main city as kind of a general area. Obviously everybody has everybody who's not currently functioning as an angel in heaven has their own personal heaven. But my attitude is you can spend as much time as you want. There's no time limit. You can spend as much time as you want in your own personal corner of heaven doing whatever you want that makes you happy. But people still have to be social. So that's kind of the way that I felt. I kind of felt like the main city of heaven is kind of like town square. Everybody leaves their job at lunchtime, or in this case, they leave their personal heaven for a little bit, and anybody can leave at any time and stuff like that. There's no time in heaven. And
no doubt there's social interaction between people up there.
That's how I kind of saw the city. Like that's the place where everybody can encounter each other and even come up with ideas. Because you only if you got put into your own personal heaven and you never had any encounter with anybody else outside of your own personal heaven, you would only know what you experienced in your lifetime or what you thought of in your lifetime. That would be your concept of heaven. If you run into other people, you might come up with something else. Like, oh, I never thought about that. That might be cool. You might see a alien landscape that you never saw. Like that's something that's completely alien to you. You never would have came up with that yourself. And that's how I just that's how I kind of picture heaven. It's like a place where you have your own personal place to do your own personal thing, but there's also a general area for you to socialize with other people and make friends and that kind of thing.
Sorry if I'm being a bit quiet. I'm just taking all of this in.
All right.
But yeah, I don't really have any more questions.
Okay. Well, hope we gave you good answers or something like that.
Well, absolutely.
Excuse me.
No problem.
I just swallowed a cough.
Smoke them if you got them.
Yeah, no, thank you. But,
but I want to thank both of you again for your time.
Oh, well, thank you.
Sure, no problem. Guess, is there anywhere our listeners can find you guys? Anywhere that I've forgotten? Other than for Affinity, I suppose. The website, the blog.
Yeah, just Comic Fury. I don't think I'm anywhere else.
All right.
Yeah, I usually, if people leave comments in the, people leave comments in the bottom of each page and stuff like that. Every now and then I'll pop in and say hi. For Affinity, yeah, you can find me there. I'm on a couple different other chat services with folk. Usually I bump into people there. If a friend of mine shows up in the webcomic, it's usually somebody I know from some chat or something like that, some message board I was in. But other than that, that's usually the best place to see us.
All right. Well, thank you for your time, and you two have a good rest of the day.
All right, you too, sir.
Thank you very much.
Okay.
Yeah.
Bye-bye.
Take care, Z. Take care, DW.
See you, Dave, and you have yourself a good day too, Z.
You can't make me.
All right.